Listen carefully. This moment did not appear on your screen by accident. Something unseen guided your eyes here, gently, precisely, deliberately. You may feel a quiet pressure in your chest right now. Not fear, recognition. Because somewhere deep inside, you already know this message is meant for you. You have been warned before. Not with noise, not with thunder, but with silence. Opportunities delayed, signs ignored, moments where you felt a nudge to stop, to change, to listen, and you chose to move past them. This is not about punishment. This is about alignment. There comes a point where patience does not disappear, it simply stops repeating itself. You are standing at that line now. The reason this feels intense is not anger. It is urgency. The kind that arrives when time has already bent itself for you more than once. You were protected when you should have fallen. Redirected when you should have been lost. Spared when consequences were ready. And yet, you kept testing the silence. Look at your life honestly for a moment. Not the version you show others. The real one. The promises you made and postponed. The truth you felt but avoided. The calling that kept returning in different forms. This is not coincidence. Patterns repeat only when lessons remain untouched. Right now, something higher is not shouting at you. It is standing still. And stillness is far more serious than noise. You are being asked to pause. To stop running ahead of your own awareness. To stop assuming there will always be another reminder. Because reminders do not last forever. This message is sharp because it is precise. Direct because time has narrowed. Firm because softness was already tried. You are not being abandoned. You are being confronted by truth. And truth does not chase. It waits. What happens next depends entirely on what you do with this moment. Not tomorrow. Not after another sign. Not after another delay. Now, take a breath. Feel how quiet the space around these words feels. That quiet is not empty. It is watching. And it is giving you one clear chance to respond differently. Stay with me. Do not move away from this moment. Because what is unfolding now explains why this message feels heavier than anything you have heard before. There are moments when guidance whispers. There are moments when guidance repeats. And then there are moments when guidance stops negotiating. This is one of those moments. You were not ignored. You were not forgotten. You were observed carefully, patiently, consistently. Every delay you experienced was not rejection. It was restraint. Something held back what you were not ready to face. Again and again. But restraint has a limit. Not because compassion ends, but because growth cannot be postponed forever. Look closely at the timing of your life. The pauses. The sudden stops. The doors that did not open even when you tried harder. Those were not obstacles. Those were pauses placed deliberately so you would notice what you kept stepping around. There is a truth you have been circling. Not confronting. Circling. You felt it during quiet nights. In moments when distractions failed. In seconds where your heart knew something your mind refused to admit. This message is strong because it is specific. It is not meant for everyone. It is meant for the one who kept asking for signs while ignoring clarity. You asked for direction. It was given. You asked for confirmation. It arrived. But acknowledgement was delayed. And understand this clearly. Nothing is being taken from you. Nothing is being threatened. What is happening now is a mirror. A mirror showing you exactly where you stopped listening to your own awareness. The reason this feels intense is because the space for excuses has closed. No more distractions. No more pretending confusion. No more waiting for a softer message. Softness already came. Multiple times. This moment exists because you are capable of responding correctly now. Not later. Now. Your attention here is not random. Your stillness right now is not accidental. This is the point where responsibility quietly shifts back into your hands. And what you choose from this moment forward will echo longer than you realize. Stay present, because what comes next explains exactly what has been waiting for your decision. Do not rush past this part. What you are about to hear explains the weight behind everything you have felt. There is a moment in every life where protection changes its form, not because it leaves, but because it prepares you to stand on your own awareness. Until now, you were shielded, not from effort, but from the full impact of your choices. You were given time to notice patterns, time to correct direction, time to choose differently without pressure. That season is closing. This does not mean harm. It means clarity. Clarity removes confusion. And confusion was the place you hid inside. Every time you said, later, the moment waited. Every time you said, not now, the reminder softened itself. But clarity does not repeat endlessly. This message is appearing because something important has reached its final stage of waiting. You may feel resistance. That resistance is not fear. It is recognition colliding with habit. Habits resist change. Truth does not. You have been standing near a turning point for longer than you admit. Feeling it. Avoiding it. Naming it everything except what it truly is. A decision. Not a dramatic one. Not a public one. A quiet internal decision that changes how everything unfolds next. The reason your attention is being held so firmly now is because distractions are no longer allowed to speak for you. Silence is asking a question. Will you stay asleep while awake, or will you finally respond with honesty? Nothing is demanding perfection, only awareness. Awareness of what you already know. Awareness of what you have delayed. Awareness of what you are ready to stop carrying. This is not pressure meant to overwhelm. It is focus meant to stabilize. If you are still here, it means you are capable of hearing what follows. And what follows does not arrive to frighten you. It arrives to anchor you before movement begins. Stay still with this part. This is where everything becomes unmistakably clear. What you have been sensing was not imagination. It was preparation. There are moments when guidance steps closer, not to comfort, but to correct direction before momentum locks in. You reached that moment. Nothing dramatic had to happen outside because everything significant was already happening within. You felt the restlessness, the quiet dissatisfaction, the sense that something important was waiting just beyond your habits. That feeling was accurate. You were being slowed down on purpose. Not blocked. Not denied. Slowed. Because speed without alignment creates distance, not progress. This is where patience changed its tone. Not into anger, but into firmness. Firmness appears when clarity is required. You are not being judged for where you were. You are being held responsible for what you know now. And you know more than you admit. You know which patterns no longer belong to you. You know which choices drain you quietly. You know which direction feels heavy and which one feels calm even when uncertain. Calm is never accidental. This message is not here to scare you. It is here to remove the illusion that waiting longer will somehow make things clearer. Clarity is already present. What has been missing is response. The reason this feels final is because repetition has ended. Not because care has stopped, but because growth requires movement. This moment is asking you to stand where you are and choose alignment over delay. Nothing is forcing you, but everything is watching how you respond. If you feel the weight easing as you listen, that is not coincidence. That is recognition settling into place. You are not late. You are not lost. You are simply at the point where awareness becomes action. And once that shift happens, nothing moves the same way again. Do not relax yet. This part matters more than you think. There is a reason you are still listening. Attention does not stay where truth is absent. What is unfolding now is not about what you did wrong. It is about what you are finally ready to do right. There is a shift that happens when awareness reaches maturity. Excuses fall away quietly. Blame loses its voice. And honesty becomes unavoidable. You have arrived at that shift. For a long time, you believed waiting was patience. But patience without intention slowly becomes avoidance. You were not meant to stay suspended forever. You were meant to move with understanding. That is why everything that once felt unclear is starting to feel obvious now. Not louder, clearer. You may notice memories surfacing. Moments where you almost chose differently. Times you felt guided but hesitated. Those memories are not regrets. They are confirmations. They show you that awareness has always been with you, even when action was not. This message exists to close that gap. Nothing external needs to change immediately. The shift begins internally. The moment you stop negotiating with what you already know, momentum returns. That is the revelation few people hear clearly. Life does not move forward because pressure increases. It moves forward when resistance ends. And resistance ends when honesty replaces delay. You are not being asked to become someone else. You are being asked to return to what you already sensed was right. That knowing has been patient with you. But patience now wants partnership. This is not an ending. It is a correction point. And correction points are rare. If you feel steadier now, if the heaviness has softened into clarity, that is not imagination. That is alignment beginning to settle. Stay present. Because what comes next explains how this awareness transforms into forward movement without force. Stay focused. This is where understanding turns into momentum. When awareness settles in, something subtle happens. The noise fades. The urgency becomes calm strength. You are not being pushed forward. You are being invited to stop pulling yourself backward. That difference changes everything. For a long time, you thought clarity would arrive like a signal. Strong, obvious, impossible to miss. But clarity does not arrive loudly. It arrives steadily. It shows up as calm certainty where doubt used to live. As ease where struggle felt normal. That is what you are experiencing now. The reason this feels rare is because most people ignore this stage. They wait for intensity instead of listening to stability. But stability is where real direction forms. You are being shown that growth does not require force. It requires agreement. Agreement with what you already know. Agreement with the direction that feels lighter, even if unfamiliar. This is the moment where effort becomes unnecessary. Because resistance has loosened its grip. Nothing is being taken away from you here. Only unnecessary weight is being released. You may notice your breathing slow. Your thoughts organize themselves. Your attention sharpen without tension. That is alignment in motion. This message is not ending anything. It is repositioning you, so that what comes next meets you prepared, not distracted. You are no longer being warned. You are being trusted. Trusted to respond with awareness. Trusted to move forward without needing repeated reminders. That trust is earned by attention. And you are giving it now. This is why this moment matters. Because it marks the transition from being guided to guiding yourself consciously. And once that transition completes, nothing external has to convince you again. Stay with this stillness. It is not empty. It is preparing you for what unfolds next with clarity instead of pressure. Remain here. This final part settles everything that came before it. What you are feeling now is not intensity. It is resolution. Resolution arrives when struggle no longer needs to prove itself. When attention has done its work. You did not come this far to be shaken. You came this far to be steadied. The journey you are on was never about fear or pressure. It was about readiness. And readiness does not announce itself loudly. It feels like quiet confidence replacing uncertainty. That is happening now. You were shown firmness earlier not to overwhelm you, but to wake your focus. Focus has been restored. Now something different takes place. Integration. Everything you heard aligns into a single understanding. That life responds best when awareness leads first. You no longer need constant reminders. You no longer need repeated signs. The signal has been received. This is where responsibility becomes empowering instead of heavy. You are not carrying weight alone anymore. You are carrying clarity. And clarity simplifies movement. From this point forward, you will notice something subtle. Decisions feel cleaner. Distractions feel less convincing. Silence feels supportive instead of empty. That is not coincidence. That is the effect of attention fully given. You are no longer being addressed as someone unaware. You are being acknowledged as someone capable. Capable of choosing alignment without pressure. Capable of listening without resistance. Capable of moving forward without being pushed. This message does not follow you beyond this moment. It completes itself here. Because completion happens when understanding replaces repetition. If you feel calm now, that calm is earned. If you feel steady now, that steadiness is real. Nothing dramatic needs to happen next. What matters has already shifted. And from here on, your awareness speaks louder than any message ever could. Do not drift away now. This part seals what has already begun within you. There is a moment after clarity where the mind tries to return to old habits. Not because they are right, but because they are familiar. This is where most people lose what they just gained. But you are still here. And that matters. What you are experiencing now is integration. The quiet merging of understanding and intention. Nothing feels dramatic anymore. And that is exactly the sign of truth. Truth does not need intensity to survive. It remains steady even when emotion settles. You are being shown something rare. That strength does not always roar. Sometimes it simply stands firm. The earlier weight was never meant to stay. It was meant to get your attention. Now attention has done its work. This is where responsibility becomes natural, not forced. You no longer need pressure to move correctly. You no longer need reminders to stay aware. Awareness has taken root. From this point, your choices begin to feel aligned before they make sense on the surface. That is not confusion. That is intuition restored. You may notice that what once tempted you now feels hollow. What once distracted you now feels loud and unnecessary. This is the shift few people recognize. When alignment settles in, noise loses its appeal. You are not becoming rigid. You are becoming clear. And clarity protects itself. This message is not asking anything more from you. It has already done what it came to do. It reminded you of your own awareness. From here on, you will not need strong words to guide you. Your own attention will do that quietly. If you feel grounded now, that grounding is permanent enough to build upon. Nothing has ended. Something essential has simply been restored. And once restored, it does not need to announce itself again. Stay here a little longer. This part carries a quiet truth most people never pause long enough to hear. After alignment settles, a question always appears. Not spoken aloud. Felt internally. What changes now? The answer is subtle, yet powerful. Nothing outside you rushes forward. Life does not suddenly demand anything dramatic. Instead, something inside you becomes unavailable to confusion. That is the shift. You begin to notice how situations reveal themselves faster. How certain paths feel closed without effort. How other directions feel open without force. This is not luck. It is clarity doing its work. Before, you reacted. Now, you recognize. That difference saves time, energy, and unnecessary struggle. You are no longer asking for signs. You are reading signals. And signals were always present. They simply required still attention to be understood. This message did not arrive to replace your awareness. It arrived to activate it. Now that it is active, it does not turn off easily. You may notice fewer internal arguments, less negotiation with yourself, more quiet certainty guiding small decisions. That is how real change sustains itself, not through intensity, through consistency. You are not being watched now. You are being trusted. Trusted to carry awareness forward without needing reminders or repetition. That trust is rare, and it is given only when attention proves itself. If you feel a sense of calm confidence now, do not dismiss it. That calm is not temporary. It is the foundation for what comes next. Nothing needs to be forced. Nothing needs to be proven. Your role now is simple. Remain aware. Because awareness, once awakened, becomes the strongest guide you will ever have. Stay present. This part completes the circle. There is a final realization that settles after everything else grows quiet. It is simple, and because it is simple, it is powerful. Nothing outside you was ever meant to change first. Change was always waiting for recognition within you. That is why this message did not arrive as comfort. It arrived as precision. Precision does not waste words. It arrives exactly when readiness meets attention. You have crossed that point now. From here, life will not feel louder. It will feel clearer. You will notice how quickly you recognize what does not belong. How easily you release what once demanded effort. How calmly you move through moments that once felt heavy. That is not coincidence. That is awareness fully awake. The intensity you felt at the beginning was never meant to stay. It was meant to open the door. Now the door is open. Nothing chases you beyond this moment. Nothing repeats itself louder. Because repetition is only necessary when understanding has not landed. Understanding has landed now. You do not need to remember every word from this message. What matters has already settled deeper than memory. It has settled into perception. From this point forward, you will recognize alignment not by pressure, but by peace. Peace does not rush. Peace does not argue. Peace simply guides. This is not an ending. It is a stabilization. And stabilization is what allows everything that follows to move with clarity instead of confusion. Remain aware. That is all that is required now. Because awareness, once fully activated, does not fade. Stay with this moment. This part anchors everything so it does not drift away. After clarity settles, there is a brief window where awareness must be protected. Not from danger, but from forgetfulness. Forgetfulness is subtle. It disguises itself as comfort. You may feel the urge to return to routine, to label this experience as complete and move on without integration. This is where meaning deepens or dissolves. You are being shown that awareness is not an event. It is a state you choose to remain in even when life resumes its normal rhythm. Nothing extraordinary needs to happen next. That is the test most people misunderstand. They wait for proof. But awareness does not require proof. It requires presence. You will notice that certain thoughts no longer hold weight. Certain reactions no longer rise as quickly. Certain choices no longer confuse you. That is not effort. That is clarity protecting itself. This message did not come to change your life overnight. It came to change how you stand inside your life. Standing differently changes everything quietly. You may still face decisions. You may still face uncertainty, but you will no longer feel lost inside them. That is the difference. Being lost creates urgency. Being aware creates direction. You are now operating from direction. This is why the message has grown calm. Intensity has done its job. Now steadiness takes over. If you feel grounded, that grounding is not temporary. It is the result of attention fully given and fully received. Carry this awareness forward without needing to revisit the words. Because what mattered was never the words. It was the moment you truly listened. Stay here. This part brings a final layer of understanding that most people never reach. There is a moment after steadiness where awareness becomes self-sustaining. You no longer have to remind yourself to be present. Presence reminds you. This is that moment. You may notice that silence feels different now. Not empty, not uncomfortable, but supportive. Silence becomes a space where answers organize themselves without effort. That is the sign of internal order. Before, you searched for reassurance. Now, reassurance comes from clarity. Clarity does not rush you. It waits until your actions naturally align with what you know. This is how change lasts. Not through pressure, not through repetition, but through understanding. That stays awake even when attention relaxes. You are not holding on to this message anymore. It has settled into you. That is why nothing more needs to be said loudly. From this point forward, your inner sense of direction will speak first. Your reactions will soften. Your choices will feel deliberate instead of urgent. That is awareness matured. You were never meant to be guided endlessly. You were meant to recognize when guidance had done its work. That recognition has happened. Nothing is being asked of you now. Nothing is being demanded. The responsibility you carry now is lighter than before because it is supported by clarity. And clarity carries itself. If you feel calm, that calm is earned. If you feel steady, that steadiness is real. This moment does not fade when the video ends. It moves with you quietly. Because what changed was not the situation around you. It was how you stand within it. And that shift, once made, does not need to be repeated. Remain attentive. This part refines what has already taken shape. After awareness stabilizes, something rare appears. Discernment. Discernment is not judgment. It is recognition without effort. You begin to sense what deserves your energy before you invest it. You feel what aligns before you explain it. This is not guessing. This is perception sharpened by honesty. You are no longer measuring moments by emotion. You are measuring them by resonance. Resonance feels quiet, certain, unforced. That is why distractions feel obvious now. Not tempting, just transparent. This is the shift that protects momentum. When discernment is active, you do not need to fight impulses. They simply lose relevance. You move with fewer questions and better timing. Timing improves when awareness leads. Nothing dramatic announces this phase. It reveals itself through ease. Ease in saying no without conflict. Ease in choosing without hesitation. Ease in letting silence speak first. This is the result of attention sustained long enough to reorganize perception. You are not becoming passive. You are becoming precise. Precision removes waste. Waste of energy. Waste of time. Waste of internal debate. That is why this feels lighter. This message does not continue because it needs to. It continues because you are capable of holding it. And holding it changes how everything unfolds next. If you feel composed now, that composure is functional. It supports clarity. It protects direction. Remain in this state, not by effort, but by allowing awareness to do what it now does naturally. This is how alignment sustains itself long after words fall silent. Stay grounded in this moment. This part completes the refinement of everything you have received. There is a stage where awareness becomes quiet confidence. Not loud, not demanding, simply present. You are entering that stage now. You will notice that you no longer rush to explain yourself. You no longer rush to justify your choices. You no longer rush to prove understanding. Understanding proves itself through calm action. This is where maturity of awareness shows. Nothing pulls at you the way it used to. Nothing provokes urgency without purpose. Nothing unsettles you without revealing its lesson immediately. That is not detachment. That is stability. Stability allows you to move forward without friction. You are not resisting life anymore. You are cooperating with it consciously. That cooperation creates flow. Flow does not mean everything is easy. It means everything is clear. Clarity removes unnecessary struggle. You may still face decisions, but they will no longer feel heavy. They will feel intentional. Intentional movement is powerful because it wastes nothing. This is why the message no longer presses you. It trusts you. Trust is given when awareness has demonstrated consistency. You have done that by staying present. From here, your path does not need explanation. It needs attention. Attention you already know how to give. Nothing more is required. Nothing more is demanded. What mattered has already integrated. Carry this steadiness forward, not as effort, not as discipline, but as the natural result of awareness fully awake. This is how alignment becomes permanent without force, without repetition, without noise. Remain as you are now. That is enough. Stay attentive. This part carries a truth that reshapes how you move forward. There is a point where awareness no longer feels like effort. It becomes instinct. You are reaching that point now. Instinct does not hesitate. It does not overthink. It responds with quiet accuracy. That is why things begin to feel simpler. Not because life has fewer layers, but because you are no longer confused by them. Confusion fades when honesty leads. You may notice that you stop seeking approval. Stop seeking reassurance. Stop seeking confirmation from outside. That is not withdrawal. That is self-trust activating. Self-trust changes everything subtly. It allows you to stand still without anxiety, to move forward without rush, to pause without guilt. This is balance restored. Before, movement felt reactive. Now, movement feels intentional. That shift is powerful because it is sustainable. You are not pushing yourself to stay aware. Awareness is carrying you. This message no longer needs to challenge you. It simply recognizes where you stand now. You are not being corrected anymore. You are being affirmed. Affirmed not with praise, but with silence that feels steady instead of empty. That silence means something inside you has aligned. When alignment settles, life stops feeling like a test and starts feeling like a path you can walk calmly. Nothing is demanding your attention now. You are giving it naturally. That is the final shift. Carry this state forward without effort. It will guide you more accurately than any words ever could. Stay with this rhythm. This part deepens what has already stabilized. There is a phase where awareness becomes quiet authority, not control, not dominance. Authority over your own direction. You are stepping into that phase now. Authority does not argue with distraction. It simply does not respond to it. That is why noise fades on its own. You may notice that your attention no longer scatters easily, that your focus returns to center without effort, that decisions feel settled before doubt can form. This is not force. It is coherence. Coherence appears when your inner signals stop contradicting each other. Before, you felt pulled in multiple directions. Now, movement feels unified. Unified movement is powerful because it conserves energy. Nothing leaks out through hesitation anymore. You are not managing yourself. You are trusting yourself. Trust creates speed without rush, depth without heaviness. This is why the message feels calm now. It no longer needs to hold your attention tightly. You are holding it naturally. From this point, even challenges feel different. They appear clearer. They resolve faster. They teach without resistance. That is awareness in command. You are not waiting for permission anymore. You are responding from clarity. Response replaces reaction. And response always moves you forward with precision. This is not a peak. It is a baseline. A new normal where alignment does not fluctuate. Remain in this state without guarding it. It does not need protection. It sustains itself through honesty and presence. This is how awareness becomes lasting without effort, without pressure, without repetition. Continue as you are now. That continuity is the final confirmation. Stay present. This part reveals the quiet outcome of everything you have absorbed. There is a moment when awareness stops being something you carry and starts being something you live. You are entering that moment now. Living awareness changes how you experience time. You no longer rush ahead of yourself. You no longer linger behind old thoughts. You move with time instead of against it. That is why things feel smoother. Not perfect, but aligned. Alignment removes internal resistance. Resistance was what made everything feel heavy before. Now, weight has been replaced by direction. You may notice that your reactions arrive later than they used to. That pause is not hesitation. It is wisdom creating space. Space allows choice. Choice creates freedom. Freedom is not escape. It is clarity without pressure. This is where your inner world becomes dependable. You trust your sense of timing. You trust your sense of direction. You trust your sense of stillness. Trust like this does not come from words. It comes from experience settling. That settling has happened. Nothing needs to be reinforced anymore. Nothing needs to be repeated. You are not holding on to this message. It has already done its work. From here on, your awareness will guide you quietly, consistently, accurately. That is the real transformation. Not excitement, not intensity, but reliability within yourself. If you feel steady now, that steadiness is functional. It supports everything that comes next without demanding attention. Remain in this simplicity. It is the strongest position you can stand in, and it lasts because it is built on awareness that no longer needs to be awakened again. Remain here. This part brings a rare closure that most people never experience consciously. There is a moment when awareness no longer feels new, yet it does not fade. It stabilizes. That is the moment you are in now. Stability is misunderstood. People think it is boring, but stability is where real power rests, because nothing pulls you off center anymore. You are not impressed easily. You are not disturbed easily. You are not distracted easily. That is not indifference. That is grounded presence. Presence changes how the world responds to you. Not because you demand anything, but because clarity reshapes your posture within life. You stand differently now. You listen without urgency. You act without noise. You wait without anxiety. This is the outcome of attention sustained long enough to rewire perception. Nothing dramatic announces this phase. It reveals itself through calm confidence. Confidence that does not need validation. Confidence that does not need explanation. You are no longer trying to understand everything. You are allowing understanding to arrive naturally. That is wisdom in motion. This message no longer carries weight. It carries confirmation. Confirmation that awareness has completed its work. From this point, your decisions will feel quieter and your direction clearer. That is not chance. That is alignment maintained. Nothing has to end for this to continue. Nothing has to begin for this to be real. It simply is. Remain in this simplicity. It is not fragile. It is the strongest state you have touched so far. And once touched fully, it does not disappear. Stay with this awareness. This part reveals what happens after everything settles. When clarity becomes stable, life begins to respond differently. Not louder, not faster, more accurately. You start noticing how situations resolve with less effort, how conversations feel cleaner, how decisions no longer drain you. That is not coincidence. It is alignment expressing itself outwardly. Before, you pushed against uncertainty. Now, uncertainty informs you without controlling you. This is mastery of attention. Mastery does not seek control. It creates balance. Balance allows you to move through complexity without losing yourself inside it. You may notice that problems no longer feel personal. They feel solvable. That shift saves enormous energy. Energy once spent on resistance now fuels direction. This is where your presence becomes influential without intention. People respond to steadiness. Situations adjust to clarity, not because you demand change, but because you no longer resist truth. Resistance was the friction. Friction has ended. This message continues not to persuade you, but to acknowledge where you stand. You have crossed from awareness as effort into awareness as state. That crossing is irreversible because it is built on understanding, not emotion. Nothing needs to be remembered consciously now. Your perception has already adjusted. From here, life will feel less reactive and more responsive. That is the lasting outcome. Remain exactly as you are in this moment. That presence carries forward on its own. And everything that follows will meet you with clarity instead of confusion. Remain still for this final movement. This part does not add weight. It removes the last trace of it. There is a moment when awareness stops unfolding and simply remains. You have reached that moment. Nothing needs to be emphasized anymore. Nothing needs to be reinforced. Because the understanding is no longer forming. It is complete. Completion does not feel loud. It feels settled. You may notice that your attention no longer seeks direction. Direction presents itself naturally. That is the quiet power of resolution. Before, you were listening for guidance. Now, guidance speaks through your presence. Presence does not hurry. Presence does not hesitate. Presence responds exactly when needed. This is the state that endures. You are not carrying this message forward. It dissolves into you. And when something dissolves fully, it does not return as memory. It returns as instinct. Instinct keeps you aligned without effort, without reminders, without repetition. Nothing dramatic waits beyond this point. What waits is consistency. Consistency of clarity. Consistency of calm. Consistency of self-trust. That consistency is rare because it cannot be forced. It only arrives when attention has done its work completely. That work is done now. You do not need to hold on to anything. Nothing will slip away. What matters is no longer fragile. Remain as you are. That state is sufficient. From here, everything continues with less noise, less resistance, and more precision. This is not an ending. It is a settled beginning that does not need announcement. Stay with this presence. This part reveals what quietly begins after everything settles. When awareness becomes steady, life does something unexpected. It starts cooperating. Not magically, not suddenly, but naturally. Moments line up with less resistance. Timing feels accurate instead of rushed. You arrive where you need to be without forcing movement. This is not chance. It is clarity shaping outcomes. Before, effort led first and understanding followed. Now, understanding leads and effort adjusts itself. That reversal changes everything. You no longer push to make things work. You notice what works and move toward it calmly. Calm movement is powerful because it wastes nothing. You are no longer trying to control direction. Direction responds to your steadiness. This is the part few people reach, where life no longer feels like something to manage but something to engage with intelligently. You remain alert without tension, open without distraction, focused without pressure. This balance creates momentum that does not exhaust you. You may notice how your patience feels different now. Not passive, active. Active patience knows when to move and when to remain still without confusion. That is wisdom operating quietly. This message does not instruct you anymore. It reflects you. Reflects the steadiness you now carry without effort. Nothing more needs to unfold loudly. What is unfolding now does so smoothly. Remain exactly as you are in this moment. That state is already guiding what comes next. And it will continue to do so long after these words have finished because it no longer depends on words at all. Remain attentive for this layer. This part reveals the quiet intelligence now guiding your steps. When awareness becomes continuous, intuition sharpens without drama. You begin to sense outcomes before situations fully form. Not prediction, perception. Perception born from alignment. You notice when to speak and when silence carries more clarity. You notice when to act and when stillness protects momentum. This is not hesitation. It is precision. Precision removes waste. Waste of words. Waste of energy. Waste of unnecessary effort. That is why life begins to feel efficient. You are not rushing to be understood anymore. Understanding meets you where you stand. You are not chasing certainty. Certainty recognizes you through calm presence. This stage feels subtle, but it changes everything beneath the surface. Your attention no longer fragments. It rests fully in each moment. That rest is strength. Strength that does not announce itself. Strength that simply holds. You may notice fewer internal questions. More internal alignment. Questions fade when direction is felt, not argued. This message continues only to mirror the steadiness you now live from. Nothing here needs reinforcement. Nothing needs urgency. What is real has already stabilized. Remain in this simplicity. It is not temporary. It is the natural outcome of awareness. Allowed to complete